Thank you, Chito. Thank you, Kwambox. It's really great. This is my first time being at Kiss FM, but I must say I'm one of your greatest fans. Every time when I'm going to work or I'm going to travel to the constituency, one of my to-go listening stations is Kiss 100. So
Thank you so much.
I just have to ask, what is Molo known for? Milk.
I'm a Molo line.
Actually, Molo we're one of the greatest producers of potatoes. So when you're when you're eating your chips, your fries around Nairobi, chances are that potato is grown in Molo.
Yeah.
Among the many things that we are not, yes, Kiringet water. It's the Kiringet plant is in Molo constituency. One of the greatest national schools, St. Andrew's Turi.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
in my constituency. In fact, my house is just next to St. Andrew's.
Hey,
I see you, bro.
We see you. We see you.
But in addition, we're known for being a very hardworking people. We are metropolitan constituency. Nakuru County generally is really metropolitan. One of the most metropolitan constituencies in Nakuru County is Molo. So it's one of the places where I can hardly conduct a public meeting in one single language. I speak, of course, I'm Kikuyu, so I speak fluent Kikuyu.
Yes.
I speak some Kalenjin, I speak some Gusi. But
Wow.
you can hardly speak one language in one meeting.
Hey.
Because there are people from all over.
I see why you won the election. I see why this guy won the election. You are greeting people. You are speaking to them in all their languages.
Yes, Children Combox. I think last parliament I was the second youngest member of parliament. I got elected in 2017 at the age of 28.
Yes.
Vied for the first time and won by a landslide. For the last 30 years, Molo has never re-elected anyone. So I got the first person to be re-elected member of parliament after 30 years.
Yeah, so the pressure must be real, though.
No, I think one of the things that was worked for me, I knew what I wanted. I knew what my people wanted. And the first 5 years, I served them very well. So my re-election was really smooth. Like I was sure I was going to get it.
Yeah.
It was, and because really, I wanted to stop this rhetoric of a politician. And wanted to be a leader, someone who serves the people, someone who knows what they do for the people, someone who wakes up in the morning and decides, in this 10 hours that I'm working today, what am I going to achieve for my people? And that's what I did for the last 5 years. And that's why I'm honored that they chose me to represent them again. And of course, after being re-elected, I gained favor in the eyes of His Excellency the President and the Excellency Deputy President and fellow members of Parliament. And that's why now I serve as the youngest chairperson of a departmental committee oversighting all matters of finance in the whole country as the chair of finance and national planning for the Republic of Kenya.
In fact, you are 34 years old young. 34 years old young. You have a young family. You are doing all. You are finance committee. You are MP. How are you balancing all these things?
Yeah. Chiro, I think one of the most difficult thing is achieving that balance, which I really strive hard to achieve, because even as you serve the country, as you serve the constituency, I'm a father of two. My boy is 8, called Lance. My daughter is turning 5 next week on the 23rd. And now having to represent the people of Molo, which is 4 hours drive from here, and serving parliament, which is in Nairobi, and having a young family that, kids, one of the things my son used to tell me when he was young, and now my daughter tells me, is that when they see me on TV, they're like, Daddy, why you speak on TV? Come and speak at home. so trying to achieve that balance of making sure that you do your role, because when people elect you, they don't care whether you have a young family or not. When there's a disaster, when they need you, they need to see you, and you need to be in Molo, and you need to be at Parliament. So you don't want to be an absentee legislator. In addition, now being the chairperson of the Finance and National Planning is like now another job. And of course, you still need to have side hustles here and there. So it's not easy to achieve that balance, but I think I strive very hard every day to make sure that I'm not just a good legislator or a good chairperson, but I still remain a good husband and a good father, because those children don't give a what their dad does. they know it's their dad, and they
Yeah.
want their dad to be there when they need him.
In fact, when we get back after the traffic, we are going to now put you on the hot seat. You've got a lot of things you have to answer and explain for
Don't be
us.
so hard on me. But I'll try.
So we'll be doing that when we get back from our traffic break. We're hanging out with the Honourable MP of Molo, Honourable Kuria Kimani. So if you've got any questions, come to on the hashtag #ChildrenComBox. Welcome once again, sir. At least we've gotten to know you a bit. We're a studio, a family man. Sasa tukuweka kwa hot seat.
Tayari.
A lot of good things, though, from and I believe this is also possibly part of the committee that you're sitting a part of. I mean, now we are beginning to see things like the shilling stabilizing against the dollar. I think for a lay person, naona tu ikishuka. But what are some of the things that were done by, I'm guessing, His Excellency in conjunction with you guys in the Finance Committee? How were you able to? What are some of those things that you put in place?
Okay, so one of the things, maybe from the onset, Finance and National Planning Committee oversights the entire financial sector. So we are the people like oversights the National Treasury, Central Bank of Kenya, Control of Budgets, Commission of Revenue Allocation, all matters related to forex, pensions, financial markets. We are the people that now oversight that sector.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did is we agree that for starters, where the exchange rate was, we operating on an artificial exchange rate. Artificial exchange rate means that the exchange rate that was existing before was kind of fixed, and so was, first of all, to let market forces play, and then now we establish where the market is forcing the exchange rate, and find what is the ideal exchange rate and bring it where it's supposed to be. And one of the things that we did, even as a departmental committee, with the guidance of His Excellency the President, there's something called spread. Spread is a difference between the sale of the shilling and the buying price, mostly by the players in that market. These are mostly banks and forex.
Yes.
Forex bureaus. So, for example, if I have dollars and you want to buy dollars, so I go to the bank and tell them I need to sell you these dollars for Kenya shillings. And they tell me we're going to buy your dollars at, say, 160. And then you say, so you have to buy them at 160. That's how the exchange rate comes to be.
Yes.
And one of the things that we had to do is be strict on the banking institutions and tell them you must reduce the spread, because the banks had as huge a spread as 10 shillings.
Ooh.
So that was really stretching the shillings. Secondly, is investors' confidence. You will find people, if you're negotiating for a payment, someone wants to be paid in dollars than in shillings. Because it showed the confidence that they have in our currency. So one of the things that we're working on is how do we ensure that there is an investor confidence. And one of the things that we must give His Excellency the President credit for was, for example, the trips he made. He is in Germany, he's in the US, he's in Italy, he's in Greece.
Unatuambia those trips have helped in all this.
Let me tell you, Chito.
Because I think it's good that you're here, then we can find out. Because as we just see foreign trips, and most people presume the worst of all.
Kenya is a very small country in the global map. In fact, Kenya's economy is smaller than some states in the US. So if you take the United States of America and you take its states, Kenya as a republic is smaller than some of the states economically. So for Kenya as a country to be in the global map, we need to have the world talking about Kenya. That's why it's no surprise when you travel and you say you're from Kenya, say, oh, I know someone from Nigeria. Or I have a friend from South Africa. Might you know them? Because to the eyes of the world, even Africa is like a country. They think like from here to Zimbabwe, or from here to... They think that if they know someone from South Africa, I will know them. Or someone from Nigeria, or someone from Ghana. So one of the things was, can we pop out Kenya, not just from the African map, but most importantly, put it in the global map? And that's why for example, the climate summit that happened last year, where the whole world was in Nairobi, was such a huge deal.
What did we get out of that?
Sorry?
What did we get out of that?
How did he? Sorry?
What did we get out? You said the trips from the president were...
Oh, yes. So yes.
So
what we got from that is, once now you put Kenya in the global map, it means there are some things. For example, when you do external borrowing, every time we need to finance our budget, we mainly run a deficit budget for the last almost eternity.
Yeah.
So there's always a gap that we need to fill in, which we either fill in through the domestic market or the foreign market. Now, for the foreign market, we need these foreigners to know that there is for example, an infrastructure bond. What is an infrastructure bond? Infrastructure bond is a way of financing especially our development expenditure through loan from the international market. So when we fronted the infrastructure bond last month,
the one for 17.8.
Yes, we got 482%. No, it's 482% over subscription.
Yeah, because I think you had to give back 37 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so we had more people wanting to invest in Kenya than we could take. Why? Because when someone in America or from Germany or from Philippines, they have money they want to invest. So when they go and say, and they consult their investment bankers, so I have this amount of money, I want a good return on investment, where can I invest? Kenya will pop up.
Yes.
And that is why our infrastructure bond was highly oversubscribed by more than 482%. Why? It's because we had the world talking about Kenya. Remember, talking about a time where our Eurobond was coming to maturity, and all our peers, Ghana and Zambia, for example, had defaulted on their loans. So everyone is saying, now, we can't invest in Africa. They're going to default. See, Ghana defaulted and Zambia defaulted. So if even that decision, for example, to buy back, to repay our loan well in advance, had what you call in economics a signaling effect to the market. So the investors sitting in across the globe, first of all, know there's a country called Kenya. Then they hear there's an investment opportunity in Kenya. That's why we had our 482% oversubscription. What that meant is that now we have a higher supply of dollars. And so that boosted our forex reserves and reduced pressure on the shilling. And that is what led to the reduction in, or the appreciation of the shilling, or the reduction of the value of the dollar against the shilling. Secondly, for a very long time, we are always a net importer. What does a net importer mean? That everything what we wear, what we eat, our computers, most of the things are imported. But we made a very difficult decision, said, let's make imports expensive so that we force local manufacture of our own products. And what did that do? For example, the Finance Act, then the Finance Bill, which I saw it passing in Parliament as the Chair of Finance and National Planning, introduced an export promotion fee and excise duty on imported furniture. What did that do? It made imported furniture expensive by around 30 plus 15, by around 47%. And that now meant that the people that were selling this imported furniture started asking themselves, why do we have to import this furniture from Turkey? Why can't I make it locally? So if you now go to Industridia, you have most of these furniture selling companies in Nairobi, whether it's like in a Furniture Palace, Victoria Furniture, and all these ones that were selling furniture imported from Turkey and China, making them locally. What does that do? It boosts our reserves, because now we don't have to spend our forex in exchange importing furniture. But most importantly, creates local employment, because now we have guys who are making furniture here in Nairobi that are able to get employment that was previously going to China and especially for furniture it was China and Turkey. On Monday, you saw His Excellency open a clinker making factory in West Pokot. What good would have come from West Pokot? But we decided one of the greatest components of manufacture of cement is clinker. And we're importing clinker. And what is clinker made of? Clinker is made of limestone. We have great reserves of minerals of limestone, especially in those areas of West Pokot. So we introduced an export development levy for clinker and said, fine, you can import your clinker, but it's going to be 17% more expensive than if you manufacture it here. So now we have a dedicated group of companies investing around $40 billion to generate, to mine the lime, convert it into clinker, which is the raw material for cement. Which now means that those jobs that are being because that clinker we're getting in mainly from India, those jobs that we're creating in India, we are now creating them in West Pokot. So now a remote place that was known for burning tree is now employing 3,000 people in a factory to make clinker. What does that do? So the ripple effect of that is that the price of cement will see you now see in the next few months the price of cement going down. Because the raw material that we're using to make cement that we're importing, we're now making them locally. Of course, now once we make them locally, they cannot be more expensive than what we were importing. And once now we bring down the cost of cement, it's going to lead to expansion of the construction sector.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to find now I can build my Ushago home, I can build my apartment where I bought some land, and that construction means creation of jobs, means circulation of money in the economy, and that's how we've been able to turn around the economy and grow the economy of Kenya.
I know a lot of people are listening to you right now and they're saying, I mean, it all sounds good, but still does not affect the cost of living, right? The average Kenyan, you have the church that's telling you the cost of living for the average Kenyan is like all those things that you're talking about, they sound good, but to the average Kenyan, we don't know about that, right? And then we're seeing that SRC saying, hey, why don't we add the salaries for the MPs they're deserving? You have doctors on the streets who have been on the streets for, I think, 4 weeks, 3 weeks now.
It's about 3 weeks now.
Right? And it doesn't look like it's getting any better. We're talking about money. They're saying, the president is saying there's no money for you, but we're here talking about the economy is looking good.
In fact, before you answer that question, Honourable, let's go on a break and let you, before you kapow kwa box, we come back right after this.
Sounds good, but have you been to the ground? Umetembea Molo uone venye watu wana struggle?
Kwa box na Chito niseme kwamba tumekuwa na wakati mgumu. Bei ya mafuta imekuwa juu kwa muda mrefu, bei ya stima, watu wanaweka token alafu kidogo unasikia ting ting ting. Ukienda kufanya shopping unasema ukienda super na thao, can hardly buy anything. But we must appreciate that baada ya several incentives ambazo zimeweza kuwekwa. Jana tuliona bei ya mafuta ya diesel ikipungua kwa shilingi 10, tumeona bei ya petroli ikipungua kwa shilingi 5. Sukari kilo 2 ilikuwa shilingi 500, sasa imeweza kupungua by more than 100%, more than 50%. Sasa kilo 2 ya sukari ni kama 250. Bei ya unga, maize flour was going for 210 to 250 shillings. Sasa bei ya unga imepungua hadi shilingi 110. Kwa hivyo kabisa nafikiri kwa mwananchi wa kawaida sasa hayo manufaa ambayo tumekuwa tukiongea kuhusu ya uchumi sasa wananchi wanaweza kuyaona, kwa sababu kile shilingi 1,000 zile token walikuwa wanapata 3-4 months ago sasa zimeweza kuongezeka. Ile pesa ambayo walikuwa wanatumia kwa kuweka mafuta kwa magari yao imeweza kupungua. Bei ya sukari imeweza kupungua kutoka kwa shilingi 500 kwa kilo 2 hadi kwa shilingi 250. Bei ya ugali, ya unga ugali, sisi wote tunapenda ugali, imeweza kupungua. Kwa hivyo tumeweza kuona manufaa ya hii mikakati ambayo serikali imeweza kuweka kwa mifuko ya wananchi na itaendelea.
Kuna mikakati pia zimewekwa za increase tax. Ukienda sahi hata ukitaka apply for an ID, it's not free. If you want to get your birth certificate, it's not free. Like these are services by the government that we're paying for, right? So, I mean, it's like giving and taking in the other hand. And even as you're looking at the front page of the Star, we're talking about belts tightening to lower the cost of living, right? But the measures that have been put in place are so stringent and painful for the average Kenyan. We're not crying because, I mean, as much as unasema bei ya unga imeshuka, there are people who are even looking to go past ugali because the cost of living is not just unga and sugar, right? It is the actual cost of living in this country.
Kwa mwanzo kumana naye kwamba mambo ya gharama ya maisha ni many factors, si ndio? Na nimekupea tu mifano ya vile bei ya bidhaa ambazo zimeenda kwenda chini. Na kwa hivyo ni kumaanisha ya kwamba mikakati ambayo serikali imeweza kuweka tumeanza kuona matunda yake na tunaendelea kuyaona. Kwa hivyo hata zile bei ya vitu vingine ambavyo bado iko kwa gharama ya juu, kuna mikakati ambayo imewekwa kati kuhakikisha kwamba imeendelea kupungua. Kwa mfano bei ya mafuta ya kupika, edible oils, so kuna whole program kwa sababu tumekuwa tukiimport haya mambo ya edible oils katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. So there's a longer term effect ya kuhakikisha kwamba what are the raw materials ambazo zinatumika kutengeneza haya mafuta, kwa sababu we have realized the moment we rely on the international market kwa bei zetu ambazo, and then we don't have control, we don't have control over those prices. So I want to assure you Kambox that even the other factors ambazo zina lead to high cost of living zimeangaliwa. Kama sasa umeona kitu kama inflation imeweza kupungua from 6.9% last year to around 5.7% this month. Kwa hivyo inflation ni one of the indicators ya kwamba bei ya gharama ya maisha inaendelea kupungua. And so all these factors wanaenda kupungua. Umeuliza swali lingine la maana sana. Umeuliza ya kwamba basi tunaweza kuongezea taxes. There was and that's what the president was saying, we had to make non-popular decisions, including, let me say for example, for every 10 shillings that we collect from our taxation, 7 shillings going to pay inaenda kulipa madeni.
Yes.
So tumebaki na shilingi 3. So hii shilingi 3 ndio ilipe recurrent expenditure, ilipe mishahara, ilipe polisi, ilipe hama mengine, ipeleke kwa counties. And so ndio unapata there is always that tendency ya serikali kuendelea kwamba ina borrow. So tukaulizana ni njia gani nyingine tunaweza kuongezea revenue, kuongezea mapato. Na njia ni 3. Either tuongezee taxes. Last year unapata tunaweza kuongezea so many taxes ya kwamba tunaanza sasa kuongea kuhusu pengine hatufai kuongezea taxes zaidi ya vile ambavyo tumeongeza, kwa sababu iko na ripple effect na iko na negative effect kwa economy. Madeni, Wakenya wanasema hapana, mtuongezee mzigo wa madeni tena. So how do you finance these services? Na ndio tunasema hapo awali tulikuwa tunatumia pesa, taxpayers money, kufund our national parks, kulinda wanyama misitu. Tulikuwa tunatumia pesa ya wananchi wa Molo kufinance hii national park hapa Nairobi. Tukajiuliza ni je, kwa nini tunatumia pesa ya yule mtu mwenye ako Molo kufinance mambo ya national park? Ndio tukaanza kuhusu user pay fees. Haya, mimi mwenye nataka kwenda kuona simba, sinilipie kuona simba. Na yule mwenye haoni asilipe. Mimi ambaye nimepoteza kitambulisho, si mimi nilipie kupata kitambulisho kingine, lakini nisimcharge Chito, nitumie Chito kulipia kitambulisho changu. And that's why unaona revision ya tunaita user pay fees.
Yeah.
Ya kwamba mimi mwenye nataka passport, let me pay for the correct price of that passport. Let someone who does not want a passport pay for a passport that he doesn't need. Okay. Let the person who loses an ID pay for that. Let's say there's someone who wants a birth certificate, pay for it. But let's not charge somebody who doesn't need a passport to produce a part for someone else. Do you know there's that aggression across all state departments? Tunaita user pay expenses to generate own source revenue as an alternative to taxation and borrowing.
Mhesh, I don't want to take too much of your time, but there are 2 things I want you to touch on. One, doctors on strike. Do you believe we should place interns?
Kwa maswala ya interns, I wanted to be a doctor. I ended up being an accountant. Do they deserve to be paid? Yes. Is what they're getting reasonable? Look at it this way. When people go for a university degree, most of them don't actually really get to be placed for the degree that they chose. You might find that you want to do a bachelor's degree a degree in medicine, you get placed for engineering. And then we are saying that after this person completes their doctorate degree, they get to be paid, they get to be absorbed by government at 70,000 shillings. What about engineers? And engineers also go for training for almost the same period as doctors. Do they get permanent, payable government internship programs at 70,000 shillings? The answer is no. Talk about nurses. People go to school to study a degree. In fact, most of the people that actually study nursing, some of them wanted to do medicine, but they probably miss a few points, or they're not placed for medicine, they study nursing. So what's happening to nurses that are going for internship? How much are they paid? Talk about procurement officers. Talk about accountants.
So let me get this
Talk
straight.
about all these professions.
So you're saying they shouldn't be paid?
I'm not saying they should not be paid. I'm saying they should be paid at market rate, commensurate with all the other professions. That's my point. Let's talk about teachers.
Should MP
How long do teachers, how much are teachers paid in a month? Let's talk about the ECD teacher. That's someone who teaches a young kid how to potty training for young children. How much are they paid? Did they go to school to study that? I dare say that, for example, the ECD teachers that teach our young children to potty train, most of them are degree holders. They've started early childhood degrees at the universities. How much are they paid? Some of them are starting with as little as 5,000 shillings in our villages.
Should MPs' salaries be increased?
No.
Should MPs be earning more than doctors and teachers?
One of the things that members of parliament has and parliaments have across years rejected, and which I think for this have been very consistent. Members of parliament has refused to have an education assessment, and that is what makes it very difficult for Salaries and Remuneration Commission to decide how much each profession is paid, because you're supposed to be paid commensurate with your education and with your experience. And unfortunately, for the political class, and those are members of parliament, we're talking about members of a county assembly, we're talking about governors, we're talking about all the other office holders. Recently, we're talking about cabinet and administrative secretaries. There is no an education limit, there's no education level in their job description. And who is it to blame? In as much as we may want to blame Parliament for not passing that legislation to allow, for you to be a member of Parliament, you need to have a particular job, you have to have academic qualification, so that decides how much you're supposed to be paid. But remember, who pulled these members of Parliament into office? It is Kenyans.
I love how you took it
goes back to Kenyans. It goes back to it goes back to the voter. What do you use to assess who you elect into office? At the moment you have that conversation and say, I want my MCA to be this kind of person, I want my MP to be this kind of person, I want to possess this kind of qualifications, then the issue about salaries of political office holders is going to be settled. But as long as there is no academic qualification, as long as there is no experience qualification, as long as it's about how do we feel today, do we feel like we want to elect Kwambox because she can throw her kicks up in the air? Fine. Welcome the next MP of Westlands.
That's not my only qualification.
Anyway,
I
know Muhesh, I know you have to get going. We too have to get going.
Thank you so much for your time. And and you know what? I feel like we'd invite you next time. We only talk music, man.
We try to get there.
I'm not sure I'll do so well on music, but I'll try to be here. But anyway, thank you very much for being very objective in your show, for informing Kenyans, for make sure we are not just entertained but educated, for the civic education. And please, let's take this message of political involvement seriously. Can we have our young people, can we have our educated class involved in politics, learn what it is? I get embarrassed every time when someone tells me, no, you are my voter, you're my MP. Then I ask, where do you come from? I come from Njoro. Then I'm like, no, not the MP for Njoro, I'm MP for Molo. So the fact that the middle class and the educated people refuse to participate in the electoral process, that is the biggest problem we have in leadership in our politics.
So, thank you so much, Muhesh. And before you leave, I want to leave you with something that Winston Churchill said. And this is very important. I contend that for a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself up by the handle. So think about that when you're seated the next time in the finance committee.
Thank you, Chito.
Here's Big Baller from Flavor.